This is Heavy Radio 20 with Dwayne Mark, the Americana act that everybody loves to hate. Hey, Dwayne.
Howdy. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, it is awesome to have you, and you can, we'll go over it a couple times, but you can check out Dwayne's music at IHateDwayneMark.com and follow any of those links there, depending on what you like to use for social media. And we have a lot of stuff we'll get into just some quick news here. Michael Amott, a guitarist, songwriter, and founding member of the bands Arch Enemy, Spiritual Beggars, and Carnage, has received an honorary motivation award from the municipality of Halmstad. It's a small city in Sweden from where he comes, and the award honors Amott for his musicianship and for being an ambassador of sorts for Halmstad. So I thought that was kind of cool. Always nice to see some musician kind of getting recognized for what they bring to the citizenry with their arts. And also, we just we're celebrating a birthday here. Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden was born this day in 1957. So we will knock a couple back for you. Cheers, Adrian Smith. But we'll get into kind of what you've had going on here. I heard, so you were just doing some kind of live show here, Dwayne, tonight, was it?
Tomorrow I've got one scheduled, but yeah, we've been doing some stuff on and off here in Texas. There's some great outdoor venues that are, I guess for lack of better words, COVID safe, where people can just gather in very, very small groups, all spread out, and the weather's not horribly cold like it is through most of the country, so we've been able to enjoy some of those outdoor things. I will say there's some pretty bitter cold stuff. I played a show a few weeks ago, and it was 41 degrees by the time I was done. Our brothers from up in the north there, I almost said the Pacific Northwest, but all around the Chicago and Detroit area, from the goddamn Gallows, they came down and did a show. Those poor boys were playing under a canopy, and I'm pretty sure it was no more than 30 degrees outside, which this is a untraditionally cold winter here for the Austin, Texas area. So
yeah, I was going to say,
a surprise.
Normally, it might actually be better to play a show in December than on some of the hottest days of the summer in that area.
100%. I spent most of my summer sitting at home, not only to be safe, but because usually we tour throughout the country this time of year, and there was just no way I was getting on an outdoor stage in Texas, which is 60% of the stages. They're outdoors. No summer shows during the summer here for me. Not going to happen.
Yeah, I've played some of the extremes as a bass player, and I think the coldest on record was we played like a Halloween. Kind of this Halloween haunted cornfield situation, and I think it was snowing and very cold, and I think that was so it was definitely below freeze, or below that 32, so it was cold enough, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's pretty odd.
55 degrees, I'm out. I just don't want to do it anymore. I have no idea how good of a show it was a couple weeks ago when it hit that 41 degree marker. I have a feeling that I had checked out at that point and just didn't go anymore.
Yeah, it's the extremes can get a bit much, and sometimes you see some of these bands where they're decked out in jackets and leathers and whatever, and it's like they do it even when it's extreme temperatures, and I guess it works when it's cold, but not when it's 100 degrees.
Yeah, that would be brutal. I've resorted in the last few years. I hate to say it, but I'm getting older and fatter, and I've resorted to playing in tank tops sometimes. That was like a big no-no in my 20s. Never got on a stage with a tank top, or worse yet, shorts. And yet, here I am. I don't know. Maybe shorts are next year.
And so right now, I know you are working on funding some new music. And
Yeah.
so January 2020, you released the record A Letter to My Friends. So this new music is an answer to that, A Letter to My Enemies, coming out in early 2021. And right now you're doing some funding for that record. Let's get into that.
Yeah. So, like you said, it's a response to A Letter to My Friends. It's called A Letter to My Enemies. I guess it's a completion of the thought. We didn't want to put all the songs out at one time, and thought, you know what, let's do 2 releases over the course of a year. Obviously, no one at our pay grade ever saw that there was a pandemic coming. So, kind of foiled our plans a little bit. We've prided ourselves on being able to self-produce and release stuff on our own over the last few years. And yeah, woof, this kind of kicked our butts. So the record's coming out digitally on the 22nd of January, no matter what. That's already in the works. That's all been done, paid for. It's recorded in the studio, blah, blah, blah. But we're trying to raise a little bit of money to put out physical copies. And if we can't do it right now, then we'll sit back on our haunches, and after we've toured a little bit more on A Letter to My Friends, we'll be able to push out that stuff on our own. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and let's see here. So the Kickstarter is kickstarter.com. I Hate Dwayne Mark, A Letter to My Enemies. So you can get to that way. And
yeah, people look at any of our social media, it's all over there too. I mean, we've been talking about it nonstop for the last couple weeks. So
yeah, totally. I think it's definitely will be an interesting time to see when we're coming out of this, how it affects, everybody making music and affects their music. I think some people have more time to write songs. For some people like me, it's been actually harder to work on music because it's just so weird. It's so weird. And
I'm there with you. I've had to pick up other work outside of the music industry, and so that takes up a lot of time, and it eats up a lot of creativity. I have some peers and friends that are sitting down and able to do a lot of new stuff, and for us, it's been a struggle. It's been a big struggle. We've had to really focus on just making the bills at this point, and yeah, that's a place I haven't been in a lot of years, and
yeah,
it sucks.
Yeah, for me, a big part is I do like being around people, and the social element of like seeing other people play and jamming with people is something that really motivates me. So not being able to do that in the same way has been really tough. It's really been the first time I've had that since I picked up a bass guitar when I was a kid. So. It's been real funky, and I guess I haven't been as good about just sitting down myself and making it happen.
That makes sense.
So it'll be interesting to get back to it. It's been kind of a break that I did not choose to have.
Consider me ever the realist, or maybe even a pessimist, but I often think to myself, like, often I hear folks talking about how everything, when it gets back to normal, and I'm like, well, hold on, maybe some of this is kind of the new normal, and I'm not sure I'm necessarily okay with that, but what's going to happen? Are we going to know how to interact with each other like we were 2 years ago?
There is some of that, and also part of me that I hope is kind of a new beginning or a renaissance of the concert situation. Because I know it's nothing like some of the stories I hear from people that have been doing this a long time. Like just it's been kind of at a low point in the last decade. So maybe there can be sort of a renaissance of sorts for live music is my hope, and what I'll help work towards. And it'll definitely be interesting. There'll be new places opening up to play and new venues and some of the old ones that we don't get to go back to. So it'll be wild on that front. But one thing I've admired from seeing you over the years is it seems like you are another one of these people that you kind of can set up the band at almost any location, and it always seems like a crowd trickles in and it gets it builds up from there. So I've definitely appreciated that. You've played some interesting joints and always seem to get the showmanship going, get people riled up. So that's
we definitely consider ourselves salt of the earth. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of came out in the late 90s, early 2000s from the hard rock scene. I enjoyed that. I still love a lot of the music from that era. I say that very cautiously because there's a lot of really shitty music from that time frame too. But, I suppose you could say that about any time frame. But to do it on my own, sometime after the first decade of the 2000s, so like maybe 2010, 2012, it started to click that I had to just meet people wherever they were at. And I don't know, as I've toured the country over the last 7, almost 8 years now, in that format,
hundreds of shows across most of the country.
Yeah. I mean, just in the last 5 years alone, we've toured 47 states. So yeah, absolutely. There's something about connecting with people. It's less like I'm putting on a show and more like I'm just there at the bar hanging out with people who are potentially going to be friends. And I really, 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 really love that. And in the last, not this year, but the previous year, we started doing a lot more opening slots for bigger bands and stuff like that, which is an honor to get to work with some of our bigger peers and some people who we hold in very, very high esteem. Man, to go from playing these shows where you're literally standing next to the bar to playing on these stages where there's 300 or 2,500 people in a room, like it's a new thought process. And so yes, I had some of that experience when I was younger, but I don't know, we've kind of developed that show, if you will, around that idea of connecting with people at the bar. So yeah, it's a weird place to be.
So where did it start for you playing music and getting into making songs and all that?
My dad was a youth pastor. Still kind of part-time does that, if you will. And he was always around young people who either wanted to play music, played music, or just really, really loved music. And that was kind of the beginning of that for me. My mom was a piano player in the same church and kind of smashed those two things together with both my folks' love for music. And their music ranged everywhere from Johnny Cash and Elton John to Def Leppard. I mean, you name it. We had a pretty eclectic music upbringing, and that was kind of where it all was seeded from. And then being in my little church youth group band when I was, 13, 14 years old, playing songs. I can't even imagine now how terrible I sounded at that point in my life. But
did you get drawn to the guitar that early, or was that a later development?
Yeah, no, a guy from one of the youth groups that my parents were a part of, or that I guess we were a part of, whatever you want to say there, gave my family, or I guess he gave it to me, a guitar when I was 8 or 9 years old. And it sat in a closet for a long time. I still have that guitar to this day. I mean, it's been almost 30 years, and that old Harmony guitar hangs on my wall. Every time we do a Kickstarter campaign, like we were talking about just a few minutes ago, or any type of pre-sale or whatever, we always put that guitar up for auction, and every year it goes up, up, up. I think this year it was like $8,500 for that guitar, but anyhow, I grew up in a place like those formidable early teenage years. Were in this community where there was a lot of guitar players, just guys that would sit out on their porches and pick. They were miners. They were guys that played, or not played, but worked in the Air Force. Yeah, and just seeing all those guitar players and having one available to me kind of opened that door. I desperately wanted an electric guitar, not an acoustic guitar, but there were 6 strings in front of me, and I kind of had to do something with it. So that's where it started.
Yeah, that was outside Bakersfield in California?
Yeah. So we lived in the desert, just to the east of Bakersfield, and kind of literally the middle of nowhere in the Mojave Desert. And that was that was a special place. I always tell people it was just a few miles from hell. There was not a whole lot going on there. I mean, there's some characters that came out of that area, like Frank Zappa, some stuff like that, but not a whole lot to be said. It's mostly known for the aerospace industry, and
I think that's actually a really good way to describe it. Is Frank Zappa came from there, so that. There was, I was just listening, Dweezil Zappa actually has a new show, Running with the Dweezil, where he talks about his connections to Van Halen, and it's pretty cool. But so the Mojave Desert, and I think you can definitely hear that in your music, kind of that you grew up with some of that gospel and bluegrass, and then you had your hard rock phase, and some of those elements are there in the performance, but you got the banjo or steel guitar or whoever you got with you at the time, and it definitely gets usually gets built to quite a frenzy by the end of the night.
That's something that kind of came together, if you will, in the last couple years. I got so tired of people asking, what genre would you consider yourself? And then when you tell somebody, they're like, well, I listen to it, and that's not really what you are. I get so sick of hearing that. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. We're not Americana. We're not country. We're not folk music. We're not folk rock. We're not... I don't know what to tell you. I'm a singer-songwriter, and eventually we decided, you know what, we're just going to coin our own brand, and we're going to jokingly call it Amerikinda. And maybe that'll pick up and go somewhere, yeah. Have you heard that Dwayne Mark fellow? He's Amerikinda. I started looking at it, and I was like, well, maybe some folks would think the wrong thing of that, but I think that's the brand we're just going to stick with.
Yeah, I think at some point it's just what you're passionate about and what comes out, and people are going to always try to throw a label on it. But I think a lot of the people really putting out great music in a number of genres, but especially that though the similar genres to Americana is a lot of people push the envelope, and then it seems like they come back to their old guitar and the roots, but there's a lot of experimentation that can go on in pretty much every direction in between till you get back there.
I think that's a big part of what led me to where I'm at. Was I was in a producer session, must have been like 2005, and we had a whole bunch of demos. I think there was 16 or 17 demos that we were trying to get a record company to work with us on, and they assigned a producer to us, and we essentially kind of had a handshake deal, if you will. And they sat us down with this producer, wanted to kind of flesh out some of the songs, make it better. And the producer said, like, I want you to sit down, and I want you to take whatever the most important instrument is in this song and just the lead vocal, and sit down and do each song that way in the studio again. So we went down and did this, and the short version of the story is it amounted to just a pile of crap. It was a whole bunch of songs that weren't really good, and at first I was super angry, Didn't understand why somebody was tearing us apart like this. But man, that stuck with me, and that started to shape who I was over the coming decades and forced me to really understand that you should be able to sit down. A guy like Tom Waits, for example, sits down and can play a song with just a piano and it will melt you, you know, like there's a reason for that. It's a good song. It's beautiful. It's something that most of humanity can connect with. And that became a passion and still is to this day, more so than performing. I love to sit and just try to write songs that, I don't know, somebody out there can feel. They can.
A piano or maybe even some instrument that is a lot lesser known, some weird instrument or some ancient instrument. And either way, it's the song comes out.
A good song is a good song. It's that simple.
Yeah, I think that's a great.
To understand that.
I think that's a great example because of just the crazy voice and everything, and some beautiful songs still come out because it's I don't know, that fire you can just, it's infectious.
I agree.
So we had in 2013 we came out with Friends and Enemies, and then you had a split EP with Reverend Red, Fry Pharmacy Sessions, and then Land of Opportunity and Sorrow was next, and then this year was Letter to My Friends, now the follow-up, Letter to My Enemies. So throughout the years of those different records, so this one, are there some of the players from the past, or is this a new group of people, or is it just going to be you on the record?
So the rhythm section and myself, we all work together for a Letter to My Friends and a Letter to My Enemies. And then it's almost a legendary story now. There's a young man that I like to call Homeless Dave. He's actually been a part of these records since early 2014, and he's on every one of them. So I'm glad to work with him again. It was a lot of fun doing some stuff in the studio with him. We actually flew him from Southern California out there to Memphis where we recorded the record, and yeah,
awesome.
He's a good kid. But something different that we did this time for both of the letters, if you will, we worked with a group of people that we've been working with on the road, and I'd never had the opportunity to do that in the studio. Man, did that make a difference in how everything felt and came together. It was really beautiful. So Tim V and Sarah Gwendolyn had been playing on the road with me for quite a while, and we also knew Josh Stevens from the road, and just working with some people that we had long-standing relationships with, instead of just really amazing studio musicians, these were people who had kind of grown connected to the songs over the past, couple years, and that just lends something really beautiful to the music.
Yeah, cool. So you all met up in Memphis to do this record also. Do you do some jamming like back and forth before you get there, or do you just kind of get into it?
A lot of these songs were kind of refined on the road, if you will. I'd say about half of them were. And then the other half we actually took a few weeks before we ever even hit the studio. Met down here at my little chicken farm in Central Texas and just spent time building the songs together, getting really familiar with them, laughing with each other, probably getting a little too drunk once in a while, and having a lot of fun, essentially building a record, if you will, kind of creating a foundation for that so that when we hit the big studio, we were really ready and excited about it.
Hell yeah. And definitely, I think from the build up to it, what I know, definitely looking forward to it, and get on over to that Kickstarter, and let's get this LP out there. every time we have a guest join us here on the Heavy Radio, we get into some tracks that we add to the playlist. So I want to get into that. Let's kick off the playlist here with a Dwayne Mark pick. What do you got for the playlist?
I always will have that eclectic background to hold on to. So I would like to start actually with a Tom T. Hall song called "The Year That Clayton Delaney Died." It's a song that not only I remember hearing when I was a child, but if you really dig into the song, it's a pretty dark and heavy song, and it deals with alcoholism and some of the real big struggles that we as musicians have. And I don't know, I guess we positively impact a lot of people's lives, but sometimes it seems like it's at a hell of a cost.
Yeah, one thing, I know there's a couple performers that we've both had some encounters with, and Rocky Erickson was one that came up where, it's a very troubled person, but somehow I think just people like that putting the art out there does help other people. Either they can commiserate with them, or they care about them and they want to support them, and their art actually helps them get through some of the low points. And it's just a number of different ways I think that affects other people and the artist themselves.
Definitely. And like I said, it's good and bad, just like you're pointing out. I mean, I think sometimes the artist might get a little too wrapped up in it and it drags them down, but I don't know, maybe for the greater good of humanity, it's worth it. And I don't want to sound like a pious piece of shit either. Like, I'm not saying I'm that special guy, but I see a lot of really positive things come out of some pretty negative situations sometimes. So I always hope for the best when I look at those songwriters, and sometimes including myself.
Yeah, no, very much agree. The first song that I'm adding to the playlist is from the group Blue Cheer. It's called Nightmares. Blue Cheer was formed in 1967 by Dickie Peterson, and they became known as one of the many people that influenced and molded what we come to know as heavy metal. But this is a more recent track, a very heavy rocker called Nightmares, and adding that to the playlist, so definitely crank that.
I'm writing these down while you're putting them in there. That way, even before you push the show out, I'm going to make sure that I get to go listen to these.
Yeah, Blue Cheer with Nightmares. What else do you have for the playlist?
I love a band called Pedro the Lion, and David Bazan wrote this song called Priests and Paramedics. Oh man, I struggle as a person. I want to be kind of a cop too often. I'm not sensitive enough. I don't pay attention enough to the details that people are quietly offering. And so hearing this song just broke my heart the first time I heard it, 15 years ago. And it's just about that connection where we're faced with the reality that somewhere along the line we are going to die. It's going to happen. That's just how life goes. And it's a beautifully poetic, dark, heavy way of dealing with it, but it's real.
Yeah, I was working, I think it was at KULT, a college radio station. I was the manager in Cedar Falls, Iowa, when this song started spreading around. And I guess I'm always drawn to when people do get heavy, and I think it's a great heavy radio song, because we always kind of go for, heavy in every sense of the word. It's definitely an emotionally heavy number, and really hits hard. And I think the live version really captures captures well also.
Definitely.
My next track for the playlist is a band called Count Raven with the Poltergeist. And Count Raven, this is sort of a reunited effort. They were formed in 1987 by vocalist Christian Linderson and guitarist Dan Fodelius, and they're originally called Storm Varning, and in 1989 changed their name to Count Raven. And the Poltergeist, it's just a really epic jam. Lyrics start, I sold my soul to the night, I refused to go into the light, and been so long since I saw the sun, remember me the undone. So Count Raven with the Poltergeist, a very epic jam to add to the playlist here. Now we'll get to Dwayne Mark, pick number 3.
Can we make it a Dwayne Mark song?
We can. We should. People would hate that, right?
Yeah, exactly. off of the last record, A Letter to My Friends, we recorded a song called One-Eyed King. It's a song that I wrote about the struggles I have as a person with not being jealous, with trying to stay focused. Sometimes you just see people in whatever industry, whatever passion you have in life, they're doing half the work and they have twice the success, and you just can't figure out why. And that's what I wrote this song about. Somebody that I recently did an interview with, they stopped in the middle of the song and they just laughed and said, "Wait, this is straight up metal." I don't know if it was metal, but anyhow, One-Eyed King would be, I would beg for your consideration.
Dwayne Mark, the One-Eyed King. Yeah, I have gotten to see this one live a couple times, and I can definitely attest to that. There's definitely brings the heavy. Let's see here. My next track is coming from Ohio. It's a heavy band called Electric Citizen. They kind of call it Rust Belt rock and roll. And I think this one will definitely pique your interest. It's Electric Citizen with Magnetic Man and some other cats that were really getting some good momentum. And then global events happened and we're all kind of readjusting to that. So it'll be interesting to see where they come out of this, just like everybody else. Electric Citizen with Magnetic Man.
I can't believe I can write this fast.
Yeah, and next, we got Dwayne Mark, pick number 3. Or 4
there's a
it
band
is,
that I
right?
fell in love with about, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, maybe longer, called He Is Legend. And I think they got a bad rep as kind of like a screamo band or something. They have some of the heavier music that I've listened to in the last 10 years for sure, and definitely they're a band that's in constant rotation for me. But they have a song, it's a little bit older now, but it's called Everyone I Know Has Fangs, and I just love this song. As a person who works as an entertainer, sometimes you need to disconnect. Sometimes it's hard to be out there constantly with everyone. And yeah, this is a great tune to remind those entertainers of that. And I don't care what kind of entertainment you work in. Maybe you're a bartender, maybe you're a burlesque dancer, maybe hell, maybe you're a politician. All I know is that sometimes those people around you that have all these great things to say and they got your back and they're buying you dinner or whatever, man, they got fangs too.
Yeah, there's that element. And also that, I guess it brings to mind the idea of how many people it can take just to have a live show. You get the people working the bar, and if there's sound people, and just being able to operate a venue legally at that time and place, and the people who shows up, one person being a dick and derail everything. So it's always an interesting collaboration of people every time a show goes on, even more so in the bar setting for sure. And mine newer pick is a band called Icarus Witch with Until the Bitter End. They're from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and formed in 2003. This is a closing track from their 2018's Goodbye Cruel World. They were playing in Europe right before shows kind of stopped globally. So again, Icarus Witch were blasting them out for them to pick back up things here.
This is a band I actually know too.
Yeah, interesting bit about them is they actually made a theme song for the Pittsburgh Penguins called Boys of Winter. And they've actually, I guess, it makes sense to me, but a trend of heavy bands making some songs for hockey teams, like Pantera did one for the Dallas Stars, and Icarus Witch did Boys of Winter for the Penguins.
Hell yeah.
Pretty fitting. And we actually have, I heard some plans for a local hockey team here, the Buccaneers. They're actually making a new place for them to play in Merlehaim Mall, and it seems like maybe they'll have some live acts going in there, so that might be an awesome place for you to check out when you come through.
I have not played in an ice rink since 2004.
Yeah, I can only imagine this will be something pretty different since it's just getting built now in 2021. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because they've been playing in an old rundown arena for as long as I've been around. So it'll be interesting to see what this new facility looks like in a mall of all places. So it should be pretty interesting.
Though, I love the passion behind sports like that, though, And I'm not talking about NHL hockey. I'm talking about all those small-time leagues where these are players that just play because they love it. And sure, maybe they make $1,000 a week or something at the top of the line. But these guys are just there because their heart's in it. They're hoping they can make it to the big time. But, man.
And especially hockey, between the gear and the beating that you take. So the investment... Right. And then both, monetary and physical, and then to just do it for the love of it is definitely something to behold for sure.
So cheers to Icarus for writing a hockey song.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite songs of all time is the hockey song by Warren Zevon, and definitely a great number about a goon that finally gets to score a goal, and somehow he makes that so emotional. It's amazing. But yeah, we'll get to it. What's the next pick that you have for the playlist?
I think doing a song that stuck with me for my entire life would be really important. That's Johnny Cash did a song called Man in Black.
Yeah.
And I used to cover this song, I don't know, 7, 8-10 years ago. Haven't really done it much in the past few years, but I think that it's time for it to come back. You look at the world around us and some of the struggles that we've had, specifically as a country, with some issues that are just tough to talk about. I mean, like the Black Lives Matter movement, and just knowing how incredibly terribly people are treated sometimes, to see some of the horrible things that even our own government has done in the last few years. This is a song that really speaks to that. It's about that quiet solidarity that says, hey, I'm here. I'm a part of this. Yeah, maybe I'm not on the front lines every day, but it's important. It matters. We all deserve to be equal at every level in the game. I get it. Maybe rewarding people financially is a good thing to keep things motivated. I don't know. But what I do know is that no one ever deserves to be treated poorly in a manner because of their race, creed, their religion, their gender, their sexual preference, any of those things. And I think that this song may have come out almost 50 years ago, but
yeah, it's so interesting, and I'm sure you get it, touring around all over the place. It's like, it seems like most people can agree with that at a basic level, and then somehow the disconnect happens after that. It's like,
you know what I think happens, and I don't want to drag this out and pull the show down, but I think that there's a lot of people that are quiet about their, for lack of better words, hatred until the right moment shines, and then they jump on it. And it's crazy. And don't get me wrong, I get it. Maybe you're drunk and you stick your foot in your mouth and you tell a bad joke or something. Shame on you for doing that. But that's not the kind of shit I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who are like closet homophobic and racist, and they're angry and they're bitter, but they're quiet. And then when someone gives them a platform, they scream at the top of their lungs about it like it's the only thing that they've ever been passionate about. And it's frankly heartbreaking, you know?
Yeah. And I guess the positive side I can hope for is that, you know, when the light gets shown on it, that's when it's really, the pain is coming out, and hopefully that's how you start to keep dispersing it. I mean, we've come so far in a short amount of time, and now that you actually get some of these groups highlighted, I think that's when you can start to realize, you know, is this a small percentage of people with a loud voice, you know, given an outlet because it's shocking, and hopefully more often than not that turns out to be the case, because the dirty stuff sells, so it gets loud for a while, and then some people that get associated with movements like that are like, what the hell am I doing? Or I was actually trying to you know, take this back or change it, and that's a hard path to take. But I've definitely seen that with all kinds of different movements that have gotten a bad rap or gotten really ugly, and then people get out of it. So hopefully this loudness of that front that we're seeing here is more like a screaming death blow of another wave of all kinds of ugly bullshit. But
I hope so.
We'll see how.
Hope so. And
see how it plays out.
I want to say that I think that one way or another, it's the end of it. It's done for the time being, you know, and it might be a harsh coming to terms there, but it's worth it.
And
taking care of our fellow human beings is what matters.
And then we get to the next level of people that hate robots, and that's then we have to deal with that. That's what I just.
Man, someday when you and I have more time, we'll sit and we'll talk about a drummer that I worked with who it probably still does to this day. He's a good guy. I'm not knocking him, but he's got this whole robot plan that they're gonna take, and they're gonna do all the work for us. And I don't know. I'm still on the Terminator side of this, man.
Yeah.
I'm still a little bit scared of it.
It's deep and dark, but I just had to laugh because I think it was Elon Musk who put out some tweet that people took as transphobic. And then at the same time, he's talking about putting microchips in people. So then there's people that don't like the transhuman side of things that he's pushing. And we're always going to find new things, I guess, to hate on and to that people are going to fear is different. And I'm just going to be over here not really understanding why people are wasting so much energy on hating. And we'll do the best we can to play some music for the people and get through it. And my last track for the show, it is coming from Bloody Hammers with Hands of the Ripper. Bloody Hammers was founded in Transylvania County, North Carolina, the perfect place for Bloody Hammers. Hands of the Ripper, I'm guessing they got this track from an old school horror movie called Hands of the Ripper, but I just love this band. They've been one of my favorite groups over the last decade. So definitely crank their new track, Bloody Hammers with Hands of the Ripper. And one thing to be sure, for some reason I do find these darker tracks kind of appeal to me in the dark times and actually I don't know how it works out that way, but it somehow it makes me feel good, even if the song is dark. It must work that way for a lot of people, but yeah.
I feel like it's community. Like when you know that there's a whole bunch of people out there who feel much like you do, it starts to make it, I don't want to say a little bit more okay, but at least like we can cope with this together.
Yeah. And especially now it'll be a different holiday season for people all over the world where it's harder to be with the people that they love. And I'm sure we'll put some music out there for everybody, and we'll all get through. All right, it's been Heavy Radio 20 with Dwayne Mark. IHateDwayneMark.com. Quick Kickstarter, I Hate Dwayne Mark, a letter to my enemies. Let's get this LP out there. And it's been great chatting with you and adding some songs to the playlist. And it's we got into a little bit of everything, but that's why we call it Heavy Radio, because that's what we do.
That's what I love about this, the fact that those songs, there's a lot of musically heavy stuff, but there's some stuff on here that's lyrically heavy from all over the place. So
yeah, and I'm definitely going to want to see and hear that Johnny Cash song, so I'll hold you to that.
Yeah, I'll get to it. I need to.
All right, awesome. Check it out, and let's get this LP out there and have a great holiday season.
Thank you for having me, y'all. Happy holidays, too.